In the headlines, North Korea says it's sending a cheering squad to the upcoming Asian Games to be held in South Korea. And its leader Kim Jong-un visits a frontline military detachment and sends a strong warning against enemies on the same day. July is going to be a month politically packed for Korea, with confirmation hearings for the new cabinet starting today and with by-elections at the end of this month. The president's invited leaders of rival parties to her office this week. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu speaks with the father of the Palestinian teenager who was murdered in Jerusalem last week and promises a firm response.
Hello and welcome to Primetime News. I'm Sean Lim.
Happy Monday, everyone. I'm Kang Tae-ri in Seoul. We begin tonight with mixed gestures out of North Korea.
On the day that its leader Kim Jong-un visits a frontline military detachment and sends a strong warning against enemies, it says it's sending a cheering squad to this year's Asian Games being held in South Korea in September. Our Hwang Ji-ae starts us off.
It seems like North Korea is once again reaching out to South Korea. In a government announcement Monday, the North said it will send a cheering squad to the upcoming 17th Asian Games that will take place in Incheon, a port city in western South Korea. The North said it'll send the squad along with its athletes to improve inter-Korean relations and help create the mood for further exchanges between the two Koreas. It added the move shows Pyongyang's commitment to unification within the nation and on the global stage. If all goes to plan, it would be the fourth time for the North to send a cheering squad to a sporting event in South Korea. The last time the squad visited was 9 years ago during the 2005 Asian Athletics Championships, also held in Incheon. Officials at Seoul's Unification Ministry say there's no reason to turn down Pyongyang's latest move as the Incheon Asian Games proceed according to international practices. Aside from the cheering squad, the North's announcement also said the two Koreas should put an end to reckless confrontation and open a new chapter of reconciliation. In May, the North said it would send 150 athletes to the Asian Games, which run from September 19th to October 4th. Pundits expect North Korea's participation to raise global awareness of the Games and help to improve inter-Korean relations. Hwang Ji-ae, Arirang News.
Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has begun to take action on his announcement from last week to approve measures to expand its military role in this region.
However, his next steps are unlikely to be smooth as there are indications that he's losing support from his public. Our Son Jung-in reports.
Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has started to take follow-up steps after his decision to reinterpret the country's pacifist constitution to legally permit Japan to engage in collective self-defense. Speaking to reporters Sunday, Abe said he plans to create a new ministerial post which will be in charge of national security legislation to broaden the scope of the self-defense forces' activities. Abe said he would name the minister who will be a person well-versed in security issues to prepare for the large-scale legal revisions during a planned cabinet reshuffle in early September. However, Abe is facing a number of problems. First, his cabinet's approval rating slipped below 48% after his decision last week. In polls conducted by Japan's media outlets, Abe's own approval rating stood at 47.8% in early July, down from 57% in June. It's the first time his rating has slipped below 50% since December. In addition, a lawsuit over the cabinet's decision is expected to be filed by a mayor in Mie Prefecture. Matsusaka Mayor Mitsushige Yamanaka says the move is unconstitutional. He has vowed to call on lawmakers, the heads of other municipalities, and the general public to join his initiative to promote pacifism. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
Beijing appears determined to continue pressing Tokyo to stop denying its past wrongdoings with its largest commemorative event ever of the 77th anniversary of the start of its second war of resistance against Japan.
And Chinese President Xi Jinping himself was there to address the public and stress that his country would steadfastly guard history. Our Shin Se-min tells us more.
Chinese President Xi Jinping commemorated the start of the 8-year war of resistance against Japan at an anniversary event that was larger than ever this year to highlight Japan's wartime atrocities. Although the Chinese head of state avoided mentioning Japan or Abe by name, he said there are still a small number of people who ignore the iron facts of history.
The Chinese people who made great sacrifices will steadfastly guard history which is written with our lives and blood. We firmly take the path of peaceful development, and we hope all the nations in the world would also walk the path of peaceful development.
The Chinese government marks the event every year, but on this day, 77 years later, the commemoration ceremony was more extensive than ever. The event was carried live on China's state television CCTV, Xinhua Online, and many other media outlets in the nation. This year's event is significant not only for its scale, but also for the live broadcast and the presence of the president, underscoring its importance. The anniversary comes amid escalating regional tensions and a territorial dispute between the two countries. On July 7, 1937, the armies of China and Japan engaged in a battle that now marks the beginning of the Second Sino-Japanese War. That battle is known as the Marco Polo Bridge incident. Chinese defenders were attacked, civilians were slaughtered by gunfire, bombs, and biological weapons, forced laborers died, and women were raped. The large-scale anniversary event comes as China has already started releasing from its state archives written confessions by Japanese war criminals every day for a total of 45 days. One such confession says the Imperial Japanese Army kidnapped 20 women from Korea and China and forced them into prostitution for its troops. Although Beijing has long accused Japan of denying its wartime atrocities, experts say that expanding the scale of this year's anniversary event is a move directed at the Japanese government as a way to force it to face its history. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
And in a more recent development today, Japanese Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshihide Suga has responded to President Xi Jinping's criticisms, saying Beijing does nothing to promote peace and cooperation in Northeast Asia.
Right, he spoke at a press briefing this Wednesday where Suga added that the national leader should focus on improving future-oriented relations to work towards common goals, and said that Tokyo would be keeping tabs on China's own approach towards historical matters.
And tonight we go in depth on the inter-Korean relations given the latest developments in Northeast Asia. And for this conversation, we're joined by Dr. Bong Young-sik, Senior Research Fellow at the Asan Institute for Policy Studies. Welcome.
Pleased to be here.
Now, it was a very interesting day regarding North Korea. Mixed gestures coming in. It says it's sending its cheerleading squad to the Asian Games to be held in Korea, South Korea, that is, and its leader sends a pretty strong message there while he's visiting. It's a military detachment there. How do you read this?
Well, North Korea declared that it will send its enemies to the bottom of the sea, to the last man. But at the same time announced that it will send cheering squad to the Incheon Asian Games. We're going to see a lot of these mixed moves by North Korea in coming days. The whole point of doing such mixed gestures is to expand its wiggle room in the aftermath of the South Korea-China summit. On one hand, North Korea wants to send very strong signal to all the countries that it will not just sit quiet under pressure. On the other hand, it wants to expand its strategic choices.
Let's talk more about their reaction to South Korea and China's successful summit last week. Do you think that's going to drive North to pursue deeper allied relations with other nations such as Russia?
North Korea has been very persistent in trying to expand its scope of choices in terms of forging new alliances with other countries other than traditional allies such as China, at the same time maintaining the foundation of traditional security cooperation with China. So North Korea is all for expanding better relationship with the countries. One example is the North Korea showing great deal of commitment and enthusiasm in moving forward with this Special Investigation Commission in search for the missing people of Japanese nationalities.
But don't you think that that's just a one-off instance where both sides get something? The North gets reduced sanctions from Japan, Japan gets its long wish for a reinvestigation into the abductee issue? Or do you think there really is a possibility for stronger North Korea-Japan ties?
Well, nothing is impossible in this world, but I would say that considering two facts, the chance for success, the long-term success for this DPRK and Japan collaboration in search for the missing people is very slim. One reason for this negative perspective is that track record. This is not first time Japan and North Korea agreed on doing this, but they failed to come up with the ultimate solution in 1996, 2002, and 2008. North Korea agreed to reopen the probe of investigation, but a few days later, it suddenly withdrew from the commitment. And on the second reason why the prospect for success is slim is that eventually Japan needs to keep in harmony its own decision on unilateral sanctions on North Korea.
Now, finally, back to the inter-Korean relations. There hasn't been any meaningful or significant dialogue between the two Koreas under the current administration, at least. What's your forecast down the road between the two Koreas to have anything meaningful or substantial?
So possibility is still there, but it is mainly up to North Korean regime to decide, make strategic decision how to deal with the well-intended proposals already on the table provided by the Park Geun-hye administration.
All right. Well, we'll leave it there. Great conversation. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Curry's comments came in response to
your gateway to the day's biggest stories in Korea and around the world. Breaking news, the hottest interviews, and a whole lot more. Join Arirang Sean Lim and Kang Chae-ri from the heart of Seoul.
Begins now.
Primetime news, weeknights, live at 10 on Arirang TV.
President Park Geun-hye invited the floor leaders of the two rival parties to meet with her at the presidential office this week. This is seen as an attempt to build support for her party ahead of a crucial by-election at the end of this month. Ji Myung-gil tells us more.
With crucial by-elections coming up at the end of the month, President Park Geun-hye is seeking to rally support around the ruling party by breaking a deadlock at the National Assembly. She has scheduled a meeting with the floor leaders of Korea's two main rival political parties and chief policymakers on Thursday, where she will urge them to pass a series of pending bills and settle unresolved issues. The meeting will be the first of its kind since President Park took office in February last year. She is expected to call for bipartisan cooperation in the passage of urgent bills, such as a government reorganization proposal, as well as a special bill aimed at determining the truth behind the deadly Seoul ferry disaster in April, and supporting the victims' families. The government reorganization bill contains a proposal by President Park to abolish the Korea Coast Guard, which is under fire for its poor response to the ferry sinking that resulted in the deaths of more than 300 people. President Park also plans to push for the passage of bills aimed at increasing social welfare and removing excessive business regulations. This week, the rival parties are set to clash at the National Assembly as confirmation hearings for 8 cabinet nominees get underway Monday. With the by-election fast approaching on July 30th, the verification process is expected to be a tough one. Lawmakers from the ruling Saenuri Party are under pressure to ensure all 8 nominees are confirmed to complete President Park's cabinet reshuffle and rally voter support. The ruling party is also hoping to ward off another appointment debacle, which could hurt the party's chances in the upcoming election. Opposition lawmakers from the New Politics Alliance for Democracy will attempt to pressure at least 2 nominees to withdraw as part of efforts to highlight the problems with President Park's personnel appointments. Kim Young-git, Arirang News.
Amid an exponential increase in the use of the Chinese currency in global trading and payment, one of the major agreements reached on economic cooperation last week between Presidents Park and Xi was a direct yuan trading market. And now it looks like financial institutions in China and Korea have started taking the necessary steps to make it happen. Now Hyun-kyung has more.
One of Korea's biggest financial firms, Uri Bank, is expected to be in charge of promoting sales and marketing for the Korean branch of China's Bank of Communications. The head of the Bank of Communications, which was appointed as the Chinese yuan clearing bank in Seoul just last week, predicts the amount of transactions settled in yuan by Korean businesses will nearly quadruple to 300 billion yuan, or roughly $48 billion a year in the near future. Analysts say this falls in line with China's push for increasing the use of renminbi by banks and businesses in international transactions. The Hyundai Research Institute says China's currency is increasingly preferred to the Japanese yen in global trade thanks to its large economic scale and stability. The Korea Institute of Finance also says as of October last year, the amount of global trade financing settled in Chinese yuan stood at nearly 9%, outpacing the euro and the yen, and points out that the rate of the yuan's internationalization is 48 times faster than the yen's in the 1980s. In Korea, expectations are high that President Park Geunhye and Chinese leader Xi Jinping's agreement last week to soon let the two countries' businessmen settle their trade bills in their own currencies will encourage more direct yuan trading. However, some experts also warn that the growing presence of the yuan will deepen Seoul's economic dependence on Beijing, though it could help ease pressure on the Korean won's appreciation against the dollar. Na Hyun-kyung, Arirang News.
Korea and Turkey have agreed in principle to expand their existing free trade deal to include the service and investment sectors. After 7 rounds of negotiations, Korea's trade ministry announced Monday that the two sides have agreed to open up their markets in construction services, cultural, as well as environmental services based on the WTO's general guidelines. Korea's chief trade negotiator says Seoul's trade with Turkey has jumped over 30% since the deal took effect in May last year. The two countries will seek to initial the agreed terms by the end of the year before it's officially signed within the first half of next year.
Israeli airstrikes have killed at least 9 militant fighters in the Gaza Strip as both sides exchanged fire after the death of a Palestinian teenager.
With more on that, we now turn to Paul Yi at the News Center. Paul, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke with the Palestinian teen's father on Monday, offering his condolences.
That's right. He also promised that the killers would be brought to justice and he would not allow extremists on either side to ignite conflict in the region. But it appears the gesture wasn't enough as Hamas reportedly fired dozens of rockets over the border, prompting this latest retaliation from Israel's armed forces. The violence follows the arrest of 6 Jewish suspects in connection with the abduction and murder of 17-year-old Mohammed Abu Qadir. Security forces say that the figure could rise depending on how the investigation develops. Authorities believe Abu Qadir was murdered by far-right Israelis as revenge for 3 Israeli teenagers who were killed last month. And Chinese President Xi Jinping has followed up his state visit to Seoul last week by hosting German Chancellor Angela Merkel in Beijing this week, marking her 7th visit to China since she took office in 2005. She met Monday by Chinese Prime Minister Li Keqiang, where the two agreed to expand diplomatic and economic ties between the two nations. However, it was Merkel's high-powered business delegation that was taking action. Merkel and Li witnessed the signing of major deals between Airbus, Lufthansa, BMW, and other German firms with their Chinese partners. Germany is China's largest trading partner in Europe, while China is Germany's biggest in the Asia-Pacific region. Chancellor Merkel will wrap up her three-day visit on Tuesday by meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping and addressing Beijing's Tsinghua University. And finally, U.S. tech giant Apple is on another hiring spree, and at this time it's in the luxury watch market, prompting a frenzy of rumors surrounding the company's so-called iWatch. Apple was able to lure senior executive Patrick Prunio from Tag Heuer, an established luxury watch brand based in Switzerland. Prunio said on Monday he was leaving his position of vice president for sales in order to join Apple. However, he didn't say what role he would be playing in Cupertino, California. Apple has also declined to comment on its latest hire. Analysts say Apple is looking to turn smartwatches into the next must-have fashion accessory as it faces stiff competition from rivals Samsung and LG. And that wraps up our look at international stories making headlines around the world. I'll see you back here tomorrow night.
Hello and welcome to Primetime Sports. I'm Stephen Che. Now starting in Brazil, 4 teams emerged from this weekend's World Cup quarterfinals: Brazil and Germany, and Argentina, and the Netherlands. Unfortunately, some players didn't fare so well. Argentina's Angel Di Maria is the latest to miss the semis with a thigh strain he picked up in his team's 1-0 win over Belgium. But luckily, striker Sergio Aguero will be back in the lineup when they face the Netherlands on Wednesday. Meanwhile, Brazil will be without 2 important pieces for their match against Germany. Neymar is out 4 to 6 weeks with a broken vertebrae, while Thiago Silva has been suspended 1 match for picking up his 2nd yellow card. Brazil has appealed Silva's suspension. And moving on to golf, South Korea's Kim In-young nabbed her 2nd win on the Ladies European Tour after a dazzling display at the Buckinghamshire Golf Club. She lifted the Ladies European Masters trophy after a bogeyless 4th round to finish at 18 under par for the whole tournament. Now it's a big boost for the 26-year-old, entering the 3rd Ladies Major of the year, the Women's British Open, on Thursday this week. And back here in Korea, the Korea Baseball Organization has announced the Eastern and Western League rosters for the All-Star Game, which happens next Friday. Now, 2nd-year NC Dinos outfielder Na Sung-bum earned about 968,000 fan votes to top this year's balloting, which ended last Friday. He also earned 193 votes from the players and coaches in the first year the system was put in place. Now, with the 22 starters already decided, the opposing managers will each announce their list of 12 reserves by Wednesday. And on that note, let's get to Monday's top KBO matchup featuring the LG Twins and NC Dinos. Now we go on to the first inning. It's the top all-star vote-getter Na Sung-bum who drives in the first run. Then the same frame, Lee Ho-jun and Son Si-yeon follow suit. It's 4-0 Dinos. Now we go to the next inning. LG gets one back as Lee Byung-gyu hits a runner home, making it 4-1. Then the pitchers settle in. Everett Tiford and Lee Jae-hak go at least 5 innings each, but it's NC's Kim Jin-sung who closes it out, and the Dinos beat the Twins 4-1. And looking at the other matchup, we have SK beating Lotte 10-3. Well, that's all I have for now. This has been Stephen Che. I'll see you back here later for more from the world of sports.
Typhoon Noguri is making its way towards Japan, and it looks like Korea may also be affected by it.
And for more, Kim Bo-kyung joins us from the Weather Center. Bo-kyung, should we be alarmed?
Well, there is some cause for concern, yes, because the typhoon is accompanied by strong winds blowing at a rate of over 50 meters per second. And at this pace, it is set to hit Okinawa, Japan tomorrow, which will land in water south of Jeju by Wednesday. Typhoon Noguri should bring nationwide showers tomorrow, which may continue through Wednesday, and conditions look to be nice and sunny for the rest of the week. We'll get 2 to 4 typhoons this summer, which is twice the number compared to the recent years. And today was a grilling hot summer day here in Seoul, and tomorrow we have some light precipitation forecast for the central regions, but this won't be enough to cool down temperatures, so we are in for another hot day. On to Tuesday's readings. Seoul hits 31 while cities down south reach the high 20s. As for other places, Jeju makes it to 28, Dokdo and Mount Kumgang to 26. That's all I have for you for this hour, but I'll be back with more after midnight.
Thanks, Bo-kyung, as always. And that's all we have time for tonight. Thanks for watching.
Have a good one, and we'll see you back here same time tomorrow. Bye-bye.